PlayStation. Number 3, Crash Team Racing. I am not a racing fan. If I'm on a first date and she says she likes racing games, there is no second date. CTR though stands out because of its drifting mechanics. Many racing games have a drifting mechanic and all of these games have animals in for some reason, but CTR feels like it was designed around the drifting. There's many jumps and shortcuts you can't reach unless you perfect the drifting and momentum, or if you're me, can't reach period, thus creating a natural learning curve that rewards your understanding of the controls, physics and level design. So it's accessible thanks to his bullshit ass blue orbs and fucked up Aku Aku helping you out sometimes, but also has a ton of depth, hence making it a perfect racing game in my opinion. Number 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I discussed this recently in an interesting way.
I would like the developers fuck my mom!
But in short, Pro Skater 2 remains one of the most endlessly replayable games I've played. Its exploration based objectives allow the tight movement mechanics to take focus, which is only enhanced by its deep level design, filled with infinitely connected environments and secret areas. Yet, the game's fun even when there's no objectives, thanks to its controls and physics that are easy to pick up but take time to perfect, thus creating a natural learning curve that keeps the game eternally satisfying, very much the same dynamic as CTR. So, regardless of what the developers do to my mum, I'll always love this game. Number 1, Ape Escape. Ape Escape takes the open-ended collectathon format and flips it on its head. The collectibles are no longer static objects, but moving creatures that can flee and fight back, meaning every encounter is unique and, thus, the game has a dynamic, unpredictable feel. I especially like the ramifications this has in the speedrunning community. Most speedruns are elite, thoroughly strategized epics, with the speedrunner having their movement calculated to the exact pixel. And then there's Ape Escape speedruns, where the guy takes 5 minutes to get the first monkey. PlayStation 2. Number 3, Ape Escape 3. Huh, there was a third Ape Escape game? I had no idea, until I saw this copy on the shelf of this shop that I'm definitely in. Let's see what it's like. Ah! On top of taking everything I just said about the first Ape Escape and executing it on a grander scale, what makes this my favourite of the series is its movie theme. Almost every level is designed as if it were a life-sized movie set, thus housing some of the most creatively brilliant platforming ideas I've played. Jumping across space satellites to battle an ape that thinks it's Darth Vader, running through a crumbling tomb to capture an ape that thinks it's Indiana Jones. It also features the greatest minigame in gaming history, Metal Gear Solid, a 1-hour Metal Gear Solid 3 ripoff where you have to rescue Solid Snake. Like, the actual Solid Snake, who's being tortured by a monkey. Between this and this, I am never coming to this shop again. Number 2, Bully. As someone who peaked in high school, Bully is a very cathartic game for me. Rockstar are lauded for the way they play with stereotypes to satirise the world, so they double down on that strength here by giving every NPC a distinct personality, an incredibly ahead of its time idea that's been rarely replicated since, and definitely not done well since. This makes the world feel lived in, allows an endless amount of entertaining character interactions, and it even translates into the gameplay, with the behaviour of the NPCs reflecting their characters. For example, if I attack a bully, they fight back, but if I attack a nerd, I run away because I'm a pussy. So you combine this charming writing and world building with its rise to the top story that sees you trying to win over these characters by beating them up, and an open world that, despite being way smaller, easily features as much to do and see as the Grand Theft Auto ones, and you have, for me personally, the second best Rockstar game of all time. What's the first? Well, number 1. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I always wanted to be a gang member, but nothing I tried worked. I listened to a ton of hip hop, but all that did was make me anti-gun laws. I sagged my trousers, but all that did was get me arrested for indecent exposure in front of minors. But then, I played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and now I don't go a day without calling a female family member a bitch ass hoe. Hey mum?
Yeah?
You're a bitch ass hoe. I think what makes this game endlessly replayable for me though is the design and scope of its open world. Travelling between its 3 cities feels like a road trip, navigating around the environmental fluctuations, spotting all the landmarks crammed into the intricately built locales, figuring out how to steal a train, plane or truck to start the road trip in the first place. No other game world makes me lose myself in it as much as this one, and you combine that with its varied missions, ambitious story and unlimited things to do and play with, and you have not not only my favourite PS2 game, but my favourite game period. PlayStation Portable. Number 3. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. I love how we've gone from Ape Escape 3, the cutest game in existence, mostly, to 3 Rockstar games in a row. There's the duality of man, and then there's this video. But yeah, Vice City Stories is by far the most underrated Grand Theft Auto, easily on par with the mainline entries for me. Seeing the Vance's rise to fortune is a compelling story, consistently entertaining because of that dynamic of Lance's over-the-top character constantly clashing with Vic's more grounded personality. The game also features some of the series' most creative missions, like this one where you watch an entire Phil Collins concert while protecting him from terrorists. Aren't video games magical? Its most notable feature though is the businesses. At any time in the open world, you can attack other gangs' operations, take them over, upgrade them over time to get passive income, as well as defend what you already have from gangs attacking your buildings. A perfect evolution of the original Vice City's businesses and San Andreas' turf wars. You can even play golf in this game, which as a privileged white man speaks to me greatly. So yeah, please stop sleeping on this game, it's incredible. Number 2. Daxter. One of the most memorable things about Jak 2 was its story, a sci-fi epic where a man uses time travel and dark powers to learn who he really is. So when it came to making a prequel to this grand adventure, it was only natural that they'd give up and make a game about being a bug exterminator instead. Yeah, this game's story and gameplay are heavily stripped back compared to its console counterparts, and that's exactly why I love it. There's no turret sections, escort missions, claustrophobic ass streets with cars every 2 pixels, get the fuck out my way, I'm trying to pick up my kid from the damn swamp! Just pure platforming excellence. Some tight levels that test your precision platforming, some more open levels that implore exploration, and the bug spray, permitting some creative level design thanks to the long form platforming style it exhibits, that was pretty damn unique until Crash 4 stole it. Number 1. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix. Like with Pro Skater 2, I talked about this recently, although I didn't say anything about the developers fucking my mum this time, so I won't say much here, but in short, Remix perfects everything that makes this series special. The arcadey controls and engine are the tightest in series history, and they allow these movement mechanics to flourish with the exploration-based objectives, now at their full potential because there's no longer a time limit or requirement of listening to some stoner's backstory before you do every single one of them. The jokes feel like they were written by a group of 5-year-olds with severe brain damage, but it doesn't detract from the remarkable gameplay for me. What Bam Majura does to animals in his spare time is irrelevant to me, I just like the skating. PlayStation 3. Number 3. Call of Duty Black Ops. Call of Duty is good. Oh, come on! Oh, not this again! Yeah, on the internet is a thing for Call of Duty to not be your thing, and I think this reputation is a shame because at its best, for me personally, this game is one of the most fun multiplayer FPSs out there in my opinion. Its small maps and snappy controls give the game an exhilarating pace, which means nothing to most players apparently, but to me makes the act of just maneuvering around the map, figuring out how to flank the enemies and single-handedly capture the objectives while my teammates actively avoid them, infinitely enjoyable. Number 2. Ratchet and Clank A Crack in Time. Has your sci-fi series run out of ideas? Well then it's time for The Chosen One and time travel! On paper, Crack seems cliche as hell, but in execution it's, simply put, a masterpiece. The story follows the last 2 members of a species, but not really, trying to find the rest of their kind lost in another universe, a fascinating premise that provides some of the most epic moments in the franchise. This is especially so because Ratchet and Clank are actually separated here, because Clank is a space wizard now or something, so seeing the 2 long for each other makes the narrative so emotionally resonant, and according to fanfiction.net, the best LGBT story since Brokeback Mountain. This is driven home by the gameplay. The series' signature dynamic of using creative weaponry while flying around the screen with the fast-paced movement mechanics is here in top form, and brought to its full potential with the hover boots that opens up the level design, introduces unique platforming challenges, and generally contributes to this being one of the PS3's defining LGBT experiences. Number 1. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. This game is an enchanting epic. This is a collaboration between Level 5 and Studio Ghibli? Sound like a Hitler supporter, shout out to PewDiePie. Some kid's mum fucking dies, so you go to a fantasy world in a quest to get her back, and everything about it is mesmerising. There's a huge world you can roam with a dragon and boats. The combat is a unique real-time turn-based thing that incorporates the strategy and timing of turn-based, but features real-time movement that keeps you on your toes. And you have a Welsh sidekick, one of the only other gaming representations of my home country that isn't one of our shit football teams. You go to his hometown at one point, which is just a bunch of Welsh people cracking bad jokes. This got too real for me. PlayStation Vita. Number 3, Killzone Mercenary. I am not a Killzone fan. If I'm on a first date and she says she likes Killzone games, there is no second date. Mercenary, however, takes the intriguing world and not so intriguing colour palette and turns it into a fast-paced, almost Call of Duty-like experience. No, hear me out. The maps are tight but intricate, the guns are varied and handled beautifully, and the graphics and general scope of the game are a reminder of how ahead of its time the PS Vita was. Number 2, Tearaway. Tearaway is a 3D platformer set in a world made entirely out of paper, meaning it features some of the most creative platforming sequences I've ever seen. This is enhanced by the game's use of the Vita's features. If you put your finger on the back touchpad, it appears in the game, and you can actually change the colour of the finger in the settings, so as a lifelong rap fan, I can finally be black! You can directly appear in the game with the Vita's cameras, which, as someone who unironically used the Vita as a camera in their teen years, is something I really enjoyed, clearly. And because everything is made of paper, you can use the touchscreen to shape objects as you see fit, or at least try to. This feature in particular, which returned in the PS4 adaptation, allowed me to create the greatest moment in gaming history.
Yes! Now blow, breeze and blast!
Number 1, Gravity Rush. I am not an anime fan. If I'm on a first date and she says she likes anime, I respect her opinion because I learned from my previous mistakes and recognise I shouldn't judge people for having a different opinion than me. But dude, Gravity Rush is incredible. A girl falls down from the sky and wakes up with amnesia and a cracked skull because she fell down from the sky. She bleeds out instantly and dies. No, she survives the fall because she has superpowers, and this ability to shift gravity provides some of the coolest gameplay mechanics and level design I've seen. Flying, jumping and sliding around the noir-inspired world is majestic, and the aerial combat, while a pain in the ass sometimes, creates some epic set pieces. Speaking of the world building here is so well done. Just existing in and understanding all of the nuances of this universe is fascinating. The black hole rising from the bottom of the world to destroy all life. Maybe fascinating is not the right word. The way time moves at different speeds depending on how high up you are. The slew of memorable characters like this guy who loves talking to the teenage protagonist he barely knows about how much he loves strip clubs right in front of his child in this game for 12-year-olds, huh? Plus, because it's a Japanese anime game, the protagonist dresses up as a schoolgirl, and also you see her ass crack at one point, and this happens, for fuck's sake, Japan. It's weird shit, but good weird shit. Play it. PlayStation 4. Number 3, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. I love when pretty girls stomp on my balls in stiletto heels, so when they announced the gaming adaptation, I was naturally hyped. It's About Time is, in my opinion, the best Crash Bandicoot game. It takes what made the originals work, that claustrophobic design that cuts out the bullshit to give you a gauntlet of challenge after challenge, and brings it to its full potential by, almost paradoxically, giving it a more open design. What I mean by that is, the levels in the originals always felt like they had a clear developer intended way to proceed, versus here where there's many sections that can be open to interpretation. It feels like the game was built around control mastery, rather than the control mastery being an endgame thing, which for me created an endlessly rewarding gameplay loop. Number 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Including this video, 3 out of my last 4 videos have featured me raving about this game, and that's for good reason. Remember that cute section earlier in the video where I talked about the developers plowing my mum or something? Well, in that section I noted how good the series' controls are, and that's really showcased here. I recently beat the hard get there challenges, which is basically where you hit a few spread out parts of the environment in one combo, and while these were the worst thing to happen in 2020, in hindsight they made me realise just how surprisingly complex the physics are. You can go off a ramp in like 6 different ways, depending on the exact pixel you jump off, your momentum going into the jump, how hard you press the button. I never noticed this until doing these elite tier challenges that push you and the game to its limits. That's really driving home my previous point about how these games are accessible to newcomers but feature so much depth for those who put the hours in. I've already discussed this game to death, so I'll leave it there, plus my friend Caden doesn't like when I get too wordy, you blonde bitch. But yeah, it is indeed a masterpiece, even with its lack of lava and good genes. Number 1, Gravity Rush 2. Gravity Rush 2 takes the unique gameplay mechanics, creative level design and intriguing world building of the first game and uses the PS4's power to make them even grander. There's now 3 gravity shifting styles instead of 1 that all change the movement and combat, including one that makes you heavier, prompting a character to joke about how you've put on weight. Good one, Raven! There's a new open world, plus the entire world from the first game, thus enriching the already fun exploration. And because it's a Japanese anime game, they also use the PS4's power to make the main character's nipples poke through her clothes, which I won't show because YouTube will demonetize me, but for fuck's sake, Japan. Also because it's a Japanese anime game, everyone in this franchise yells mid-conversation for no reason. Yeah. So yeah, it's just as weird as the first game, but also just as great as the first game. It's PlayStation's most underrated exclusive. I understand why, but please give both games a chance. They're fascinating experiences, which is the right word here. So, there's my picks. Making this around the launch of the PS5 is gonna make this video the opposite of me, dated very soon. But regardless of when you're watching this, tell me your favourite games of each system, as well as your top 5 reasons why my picks are objectively wrong. Thanks for watching.
After the success of Pro Skater 1, Activision ordered for more of the fun. A sequel was born and yo, holy fuck, I would let the developers fuck my mom.